I love a bit of strength.
Yeah?
I do.
Everyone does.
Secretly love a bit of strength when he loses too.
Yeah?
I
There's
unfortunately can't see that happening today.
Yeah. It's been, well, for people who have enjoyed that, there's been plenty of fun occasions previously where you could enjoy it, but now against Jox, I mean, I got nothing bad to say about Jox. He's a great player, but whether or not he can make it up versus strengths is another question. We did just see the champion pick some bans there, but just to chat about the players and their story in the tournament so far. Strengths did beat Seizure before this round on Thursday. And Seizure is quite an aim-heavy player, someone who's confident in his own aim. Yep. The thing is, Strengths is like the aim player.
If Strengths is on, he doesn't miss.
Yeah, exactly.
And if he doesn't miss, you have to keep away from Strengths for the whole map.
And the thing about Seizure, who played against him, I think he tried to remove himself a bit from the duel component of it in terms of thinking about the way that where you're positioning around the map and taking things easy, and was a lot more aggressive. Now Joxmeister maybe a bit less heavy on the aim, but he's a much more purebred dueler.
And the thing about Strengths is that in a very Kilson-esque way, he's a very rhythmic player. He likes to cycle and has these patterns in his game, and if you can work them out, it's actually quite easy to take advantage of his movement. He does a lot of damage in return, but you can get on top of him.
Well, let's get started right now in Strengths versus Joxmeister. We are on Strengths, his perspective at the moment. He has got the Ranger and
everything on the map.
Straight away, a little just an aggressive repositioning. To get in Jox's face a bit. It is going to be the Visor, Nyx, and Ranger of Strengths versus the Ranger, Nyx, and Scalebearer of Jox.
Jox is doing the right thing here. Yes, he got no major items, but if he can control one of the major guns, he takes an advantage.
Things you almost wish it was the LG that you could control versus Strengths, but the Rockets still understated in Quake Champions. Very, very important if he can deny it. And he's going to try to use the Rockets right now. Dyrol coming back up, going to be pushing him into the lava.
Wow.
But what a repositioned play by Jox. He's got nothing that he can take. One more bullet of the machine gun would bring him down, but he remains alive, which is one important thing on this game.
Again, we've seen that quite a lot on this map, is that people are tempted to pressure the heavy armor from that top position, but it's also quite easy to do a significant amount of return damage from below. And so sometimes it's just better to let them get it, or try and do some damage on the return when they're coming out of the teleporter instead of getting in their face.
And Jox is going to feel suffocated at the moment. I don't know how many items he's taking on this map. But
Zero major items so far.
He can be happy to have the weapons, but I mean, that's just a sort of commiseration prize. And Strengths just checking that dial, but it's actually served as quite a good distraction for Jox to go elsewhere. Most
of the time, it is a distraction. So always follow the player.
Do you think that Strengths could maybe be a bit more aggressive given the resources he has?
This is what I mean in that he's a very rhythmic cycle player. He's more than happy to chase the major items, and that is what I mean. It does not always work in his benefit.
Well, he's going to have to make use of some of this control at some point. He's going to get the Mega now.
As soon as his up, he backs onto it, even though Jox was slightly trapped in that corridor. And then he rushes over to the red. This is Jox's opportunity now. He's getting a little bit more healthy to interrupt that cycle and deal significant damage.
The Dyrol comes out as well. Jox can't do anything against that. That was a well-engineered fight from Strengths just then. I think Jox was expecting him to be just a little bit further deeper into the map, basically.
Yeah, I agree. But when you're on the defensive, it's generally better to try and take the high ground, particularly on this map. So being on the low ground left invulnerable.
Good defensive rocket, actually. And right now, Jox needs space between him and Strengths while his Ghost Walk comes back off cooldown. There's only 6 Hourglass timers on this map, and I think he's already taken 3 of them.
No, but Strengths is doing a really good job of not taking that much damage. Something Strengths does do well is he doesn't take fights unless he wants to take a fight.
still seems to be taking so many items, and Jock's trying to get on something. Oh, the rocket is perfect. There was the Ghost Walker, but just that much damage that quickly, you're not going to react to it.
It's a bit too much respect coming out from Jox. He's just letting strenx do.
Oh,
wow.
no.
Okay.
What a defensive dire orb. You know, what you can often do is you can dire orb through the player bull rushing to you and just appear on the other side. But if you get the timing just right, you can make that happen, and it's an excellent counter. Well played, strenx. Fair enough.
I wouldn't call it a counter, but
yeah. I don't know what you call it, but it's there.
It was a move.
Strenx getting the armor side part of the map on this occasion. Jock's actually getting some major items. He gets the mega for himself.
Mega of the game.
That was I was looking at such interest and intrigue at that dire orb, but it really served as nothing.
Just a bait.
And Jock's just going to back off. I can see Jox as being the type of player who, in a scenario like this, a high-pressure game, playing with a lot on the line in order to qualify to that $1 million tournament, I can see him giving too much respect.
Yeah.
And I can see him thinking that's the right thing to do as well.
It's what happens naturally when you play against somebody like strenx, when you know going into it you just can't match the output of their damage most of the time, and you end up playing a type of game you're not comfortable doing.
That dire orb didn't help too much. That mega's not going to be up for a couple more seconds, but actually that was a good attack by Jox.
And there we go. That's the first time he has actually decided to make a presence, and he managed to bully strenx away.
And maybe that's going to show that actually I can do it. I can make a successful aggressive move, but now it's a question of trying to get something that's going to lead towards a frag of some sort. He is going to follow through on his dire orb and takes actually further damage from that. LG coming from strenx. Didn't do too much on that occasion, but he's going to choose to back off, and Jox should get some armor, which is probably an item he'd prefer at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And strenx just playing. He must know it's been taken, but
guess not.
He's just playing careful. He knows he doesn't need to overcommit. His preferred style is get. Okay, he has no idea. His preferred style is get the stack and then just slowly bully your opponent.
Oh, that LG from strenx. I mean, there wasn't that much coming out from the rockets of Joxmeister. That was, yeah, not a whole lot happened just there for him.
Well, the problem. Lovely.
The bull rush. Oh, he doesn't quite do it again, but he runs through. There's nothing up for him. This is just going to be a simple chase down by strenx. An easy second frag for him.
Yeah, the problem in the previous fight is that Jox had to switch weapons, even though he did more damage than strenx. Switching weapon cost him his life. He couldn't afford to stick around.
And it could quickly sink through to a third round if Jox isn't able to do anything now. The strenx giving his own respect as well to Jox in some level.
Yeah.
Already, that's all he had, just to be in the room, and he forces to ghost walk. And he's found him.
I don't think that Jox has a lightning gun, so he knows he can't really afford to fight strenx until he's got that. Oh, he does.
He has picked it up. The damage, it's okay, but strenx, the range on that weapon, not quite there. I mean, I'm sure it was really precise and he would have done loads of damage, but it didn't make it. Instead, they will reconvene at the armor, where Jox plummets to his death.
And it's very basic Quake from strenx, but it's effective. We don't really see Jox with a presence, and every time he does have a presence, strenx is doing the right thing. He's got good weapon choice, he's making the right choices, and Jox is almost just playing into that at the moment.
No, he didn't. That is filthy from strenx. Perfect calculation of the trajectory of that dire orb. That was genuinely really impressive.
Yeah, I'm massively impressed by that. That was...
I thought he was going to push him out of the window for a second. Oh, this is good misdirection. Gets a little bit of extra damage, but he's not able to follow it up at any point. Items are coming up, and he is going to interrupt him over by the health. Oh, this is not a bad jump up, but I don't think he's going to get to the armor in time to do anything. Jox should be going down now.
Yeah, perfect play by strenx. He realised he wasn't going to be able to get across in time, and Jox was more than likely going to take the telly, and this should just be GG.
Oh, no, couldn't transform it and turn around or do any further damage on strenx. Jox got outplayed hard in that. I don't think he... Did he get a frag?
No, I don't think so.
No, Jox going absolutely messed up in that duel. Of course, we saw Syndrome completely dismantling Smoke on the first map, and it looked like no competition, where the next map would be exactly the same. But it could change on the next one. Jox may become more comfortable if he gets a rail in his hands. But the signs there are telling me that strenx is going to be
if it's any
getting through.
consolation, I would say that was probably the weakest map that Jox could have played against strenx. The game he wants to play, by the looks of it, is quite a defensive, slow game, and Corrupted Keep is not the map really where you can achieve that.
As I think that Jox, I mean, I've played Jox quite a few times. I'd expect him to pick something a bit more like Blood Covenant,
I was
something along
Blood
those lines.
Covenant. Blood Covenant's probably the one I would expect, but I honestly don't know what he's comfortable with.
Yeah. No, we'll find out though in just a couple of moments. But you know, I've played a lot of them. I respect Jox a lot as a player, but he's someone again who needs to keep exposing himself to these competitive elements and build up that experience versus the top tier players.
It is a huge attribution that you can't really obviously tell by watching. When you get into that zone, is how it changes you. You suddenly just warp when you play a completely different game to any other practice game you've ever done. And I'm sure Jox is thinking, why did I do that? That's not how I normally play.
Yeah.
But particularly playing against someone like strenx, it just changes your mind.
And I'm someone myself who's quite youthful in terms of the amount of competitive exposure I've had. And when I started playing the qualifiers, and especially when you have the pressure of the stream coming onto you, and you got all these people watching,
You've got suits critiquing
you, or other people critiquing me, and I'm just like, why am I making these decisions? It's very difficult, and getting used to that. It's better than even just practicing 1,000 games without being competitively exposed.
So we have a mirror matchup. Again, strenx sticking to what is tried and tested, what he knows, and I've said it a couple of times. I definitely think that at least the middle range heroes, the rangers and the visors, allow you to play a Quake style that is very similar to what you're used to from Quake Live, because it doesn't really introduce that many new elements with the champion. And Jox obviously switching up slightly, he's probably more comfortable with that as well, but we'll have to see. The Nyx is obviously the biggest pick there and is the most regular pick we see across the board just because of how powerful her ability is. So that's obviously an expected pick as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I did have a conversation with strenx earlier this week or last week, and apparently he's been making Cypher Rage as well in practice games.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
He would probably brag about that as well.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think the only reason people know is because he bragged about it to me, and I obviously suck at keeping secrets.
But,
so
yeah, I mean, he's one of those players that if he's on his day, he does the basics so damn well, and he just hits everything. Makes anybody rage.
Yeah. Well, let's move into the next map. We've got Blood Run, which is actually what Jox has ended up picking. We are going to see strenx off the beginning, and he is just going to dive off, maintain that maximum stack. And it's about weapons now for strenx, which Jox isn't having too hard a time finding. He has got a rail. Is it just shotgun coming out from strenx at the moment? He's thinking, okay, this isn't enough. I can't close the gap closely. The dire orb is out. You've got the rail. Oh, he does the 100 damage, and Jox is left with about 3 health points.
Jox, in all fairness, has been super unlucky. I mean, the 2 dire orb kills in the previous match, eating one to the face just now. He's not having a good time.
He's just like, there's some magnets in his head or something. I don't know what's going on. Oh, the rocket come out with a little bit of extra damage there from Jox.
And we can already see that Jox's slow style is being respected by strenx. He's not pushing in as he will do until he's got a sufficient stack and the lightning gun, which is obviously his preferred weapon.
Unreturned rail as well by Jox. Not doing too badly. Now, can he drop down to the Megator? He goes through! Great move. I think he secured the armor as well, but can he double back and actually get himself a rail shot? strenx is railable. He's sitting on the arm of nothing, and Jox is not punishing him. He has the health to do it, and he avoided it.
He needed to shoot at least one rocket out. It would have been slightly risky, but the reward would have been huge if he hit it.
And he could only afford to take one rail anyway, and he'd already stepped out into the center of the map. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just means he needs to be even more careful now. As we've discussed in previous games, the Ghost Walk is your lifeline, and you can't really afford to be showing yourself at any combat level without it up.
strenx is just chasing quite directly at the moment. He's going to find him. LG coming out. Ghost Walk. Oh, I think it would have been up any second. I mean, it could have been milliseconds away from spawning.
It definitely was, but we saw strenx's urgency in getting to the Nyx before it came back up, and that is the crucial part. If you have the advantage as a player and Nyx's Ghost Walk is down, you need to do virtually everything you can to get on top of her.
I think strenx...
Yeah, he's not happy with something.
I don't know, it's like he heard the piercing sight, and then he just went slightly crazy for a moment.
This is what I mean, man. strenx just jumps in and hits everything, and what can you do? You just have to run away. It's infuriating as a player.
But strenx has been feeling pretty comfortable in his game lately. He's definitely someone who was struggling at the beginning.
It looked like he was lagging a little bit there. I know he has trouble with his connections.
Well, he's going to be hoping not too much that he can't get the job done, but with that rocket to LG, securing that first round.
Just solid Quake again. Nothing spectacular. Taking strong positions, pressuring at the right time. He's taking Cooler's advice, and yeah, securing kills when it's safe to do so.
So what do you do then if you're Jox?
Why do you think Cypher's raging? I mean, there is literally sometimes where it is almost impossible to feel like you can do anything.
Oh, there was a chance for rockets just then for Jox, but he wasn't able to follow up at all, and he has already taken a hefty amount of damage.
You have to force strenx into these close corridor rocket fights. At the end of the day, it's highly unlikely you're ever going to win at a mid-range / long-range fight with strenx. So pick him off with the rail and force him into these corridors using the rockets is about the most you can do.
Jox might be able to get himself that armor. He is. Can he get out? He's taking a direct rocket. And what? Did he just close his eyes as well and just say, hey, this is done?
He tried to jump across and he hit the wall.
Oh,
and
no.
it knocked him down.
Yeah, because that's not gonna. You're not gonna profit from making a move like that. Would definitely not prescribe that to anybody. Honestly, it looks as if he'd given up in that fight from my perspective. But you're probably right with what you said.
He was a sitting duck, so I think he pretty much gave up when he fell. Oh, lovely!
There we go.
First kill of the game. Let's go.
Jox might be in for a shot. He's also tied up the champion scoreline with that. Oh, he doesn't know that. Oh, wow.
Oh,
okay, that rocket coming out.
strenx didn't pick up the armor.
And he's actually dropped down to the lower level. I don't know if... Will Jox realize that the armor still hasn't been taken? Oh, that last bit of rocket spam was very good from strenx. 5 seconds for Ghost Walk for Jox. And I think that was the Mega that was taken by strenx as well. Yep, it's all gone, Jox. You're going to have to work on some of the other big items.
The benefit is that strenx cannot be as nice. He cannot be as aggressive with the Nyx just because the stack is far lower on the champion. So that does give Jox a slight lifeline over.
With a couple of seconds left, is Jox going to want to hold on and try and get that Mega? It's behind, but he's pushing forward. He doesn't want to be baited into the Mega area where he's a sitting duck for the railgun. He does leave it, and I can respect Jox making that decision. I think that's the right thing to do. I think strenx ran into a wall and wasn't quite able to push out as his Ghost Walk ended.
They should both just about have Ghost Walk up now. So.
I think strenx just used his.
Oh, did he use it just now?
I believe so. Oh, no, you're absolutely spot on.
And that right there is a symbol of how strenx plays. Tries to be as risk-free as possible. Some other players would have tried to go for another rail, but strenx doesn't need to. He's more than happy to stack up and just take another fight another day.
This is aggressive. Okay, this could be really good, actually. He hits one rocket. It's given him position, though, on this armor, but how much is he going to be able to do? He does take it, but the LG damage is so much. Absolutely relentless sevens.
That was a really aggressive move. It doesn't look like it, but there's no reason why strenx should be pushing back in, because all it would have required is one more rocket from Jox, and strenx might have died.
He's used that defensive Ghost Walk himself, but Piercing Sight was used a moment ago, so Jox probably would have sensed kind of what strenx was doing then. And Piercing Sight's got a pretty long cooldown. strenx is going to find it. Oh, he didn't quite pick up the armor. Machine gun coming out. The LG, he can't make it. Jox loses another champion. At least he's making it closer than Corrupted Keep.
Yeah. He's just not able to cope with the power of strenx.
Yeah.
He doesn't really know how to respond, and it is very difficult.
I think the nerves are showing too.
The nerves are definitely showing, but he just needs to play the corners more. He's trying to be patient, but it's not quite working out yet. And that's not a great start because strenx got everything.
Yes, strenx, 2 big items. He's got the lightning gun, of course. The Rel shortly to follow. Does only need the rocket launcher himself, which is the one saving grace that Jox has. Although I think he would maybe rather swap out his start for a new one. Jox right above, trying to use some information, looking for the angle because you can see straight through to the mega health. Unfortunately for him, he didn't do any damage on that. If he's playing with Ranger, he could dire orb away, but he decides to stick around and takes actually the full 90 damage.
That rocket was insanely close, to be fair, to hitting him back in the face.
Jox has managed to retain some health though, keep getting all the right health bubbles, finding the lower small armor.
This is very well played by strenx. Once again, we're just saying how he doesn't do anything particularly.
Oh, dude, wow. This LG coming out. The rockets weren't too bad at all in the end, but it wasn't until Jox was already on half health that he was starting to have any effect.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that Jox isn't hitting the key rockets he needs to. But again, like I was just about to say, strenx just isn't putting him in a position where he could realistically die most of the time.
Mm-hmm. There's the drop down. Is there anything defensively Jox has? He's got nothing. He's managed to get a couple of kills in this series, but right now everything hinges on his visor, and if he can make anything happen, he's just used his piercing sight. And I don't know, this could be.
This is it, yeah. Oh,
just a formality for strenx. Oh dear, there's the rail. He's going to drop down. Not one more rail, can't land at the moment. 13 health left, and a nail gun shot would kill him. So strenx is going to have to delay this closing frag. Here come the rockets. Air rocket to finish it. No. Shotgun is out, and Jox might still be in the map. I'm not sure for how long though, because Mega was just taken. This is very dangerous. Oh, almost a vertical shot, but he needs to pick up any of the scraps on the map as soon as possible.
Yeah, he's still in a very precarious situation.
That was a good use of piercing sight. He's managed to secure a huge item from that.
And that's what you mentioned earlier about the zoning out. He didn't know where strenx was. He knew the major item was up, so just getting that vision means strenx technically can't challenge.
And yeah, he's just sitting and looking at his feet. Kind of a metaphor for how he's probably feeling through this series.
At the end of the day, I mean, pressure's on Jox to make something happen. He's an additional champion down. He's a map down. He's 2 rounds down. So things aren't boding well.
Well, at least he's got the piercing sight, but he's going to use it very quickly just to get a small armor.
Yeah, that wasn't the best use of it. But
oh, this is good.
Nice.
strenx just walks right into his rockets. Jox moved around up to that upper level, and it actually proved to be a very powerful repositioning. Yeah. Visor versus visor, though.
And that's the exact way in which Jox needed to try and play a little bit earlier, is getting strenx into those situations.
What do you think of the 2 rocket jumps?
I think it was the best way to get out without much damage.
Rel,
Run away.
This could be the death of him. It just about makes it out. But the 2 health bubbles there, then he's got to watch out for the teleporter exit, and he's going to take more damage.
Oh dear.
A very big oh, he's got to get out. Oh my god. I can't believe he went in for the double peek, but of course strenx is going to be landing that rail. Jox did put up a valiant effort though in that final round.
I think if there was one word to describe that, it would just probably be clinical. Strenx just playing faultless, like not spectacular, just doing what he needs to do to win that game.
Yeah.
It was a job by strenx.
He didn't drop around throughout that series.
I think he dropped 2 kills all game.
And
3 kills?
no, there was 2 kills he dropped, and I think Jox managed to get another 2 kills beforehand. There were a few floating around. Jox didn't make a fool of himself by any stretch.
No, but even still, it was the experience and prowess of strenx against just Jox who's learning it still.
Yeah, completely. The first map though definitely went a lot worse for Jox myself. At least when he got his pick, it was.
Yeah.
There were some interesting moments, and maybe Jox is going to be having a few nightmares in terms of dire orbs.
They were, to be fair, they were crazy.
Yeah, they were very
good.
good.
So good.
I mean,
I need to get practicing that.
No, exactly. And actually,
if I could do that to your Anarchy, that will make my day.
So the thing is, when you're going against the smaller champions, it's even harder to do it. But obviously, that's where the satisfaction comes from.
It's something that strenx did do very well, particularly on this map, is pushing in and using those dire orbs effectively. Look at like that, for instance. So
just great damage with it. I mean, half these clips already have had the dire orb involved. His range has been fantastic.
It allowed him to. He always used it, or generally used it to close the gap.
There we are.
That was great. Yeah. And the smiley came out. I didn't see that before.
Just dire orb after dire orb after dire orb, and he just bring it to great effect. I really think. I mean, when id and Bethesda are looking to do the full release of the game, that was amazing.
That was the one.
When they're looking to bring out the game full release, Ranger is going to be one of the sort of the free champions to play at the moment. I mean, it's free to play anyway, but the fact is that Ranger is probably the highest skill ceiling champion there is at the moment in terms of the things that you can do, the mind games you can play with him, and what the dire orb really unlocks. So I think if people are finding their way with a lot of champions and adapting them to their play, that's brilliant. But you've got to have Ranger as part of your repertoire, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think the rocket jumps, as I mentioned before, just open up so many opportunities as well that strenx didn't use, Kilson did use, and not enough people do use yet. It's so powerful to get on top of your opponent.
LG. No, it's brilliant, and I'm still getting surprised by the amount of the different plays that we're still seeing through the tournaments that we've been watching. That's Jox actually getting a little bit of his own back. That's when we thought he was actually done for then, but he managed to make a small comeback in the round.